My father waited until everyone had food on their plates before he decided to humiliate me. "You'll never measure up to your brother," he said, calm as if he were asking someone to pass the salt. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. Across the table, Marcus leaned back with that lazy smile he always wore when Dad praised him for breathing. Mom looked down at her napkin. Nobody said my name, but everyone knew the sentence had landed on me. Dad kept going. Marcus has ambition, vision. He understands responsibility. I looked at my brother, who had been living in my parents' guest room for 5 months, scrolling through his phone while I covered bills Dad said were emergencies. Something red peeked out from under Dad's dinner plate, a final notice envelope from the mortgage company. That was when the humiliation stopped feeling like pain and started feeling like proof. I pushed back my chair. "Then he can start paying your mortgage." The room went silent. Mom's face drained of color. "Mortgage," she whispered. "What mortgage?" Dad's hand shot over the red envelope, but not fast enough. For the first time all night, Marcus looked up. And I realized my mother had no idea what I had been paying for. I was 29 years old, still wearing my hospital badge from a shift that had run 2 hours late, and I had come to Sunday dinner because my mother said Dad wanted family unity. In our house, that usually meant Marcus needed applause and I needed to stay quiet. Marcus was the golden son, the entrepreneur, the risk-taker, the one Dad introduced first at weddings, holidays, even grocery stores. I was Daniela, the dependable daughter, the one who answered calls at midnight, picked up prescriptions, fixed online passwords, and sent money when Dad said the family was in trouble. 3 months earlier, Dad had called me from his car, voice low and strained. "Don't tell your mother," he'd said. "Her blood pressure can't take it. The house is behind. I just need help until Marcus gets back on his feet." So I paid. Not because I had extra money. Because it was the house where Mom planted roses, where my childhood height marks were still scratched into the pantry door, where Dad said one missed payment could destroy everything. And now he was sitting at that same table telling me I didn't understand responsibility. Mom stared at him. "Victor, answer me." Dad's jaw tightened. "Daniela is being dramatic." I reached toward the red envelope. He grabbed my wrist. "Sit down," he said. But his hand was shaking. Dad's fingers tightened around my wrist for 1 second too long. "Victor," Mom said, rising from her chair, "let go of her." He released me like my skin had burned him. Marcus cleared his throat. "Can we not do this at dinner?" "No," Mom said. Her voice was thin, but it cut through the room. "I want to know why my daughter thinks we have a mortgage problem." Dad pushed the red envelope under his plate. "Because Daniela hears one thing and turns it into theater." I stared at him. "You called me crying from your car." His eyes flashed. "You said the house was one missed payment from foreclosure," I continued. "You told me Mom couldn't know because it would scare her." Mom gripped the back of her chair. "You told her that." Dad leaned closer to me, lowering his voice. "You are embarrassing this family." After dinner ended in broken silence, he followed me into the hallway near the laundry room. "You had no right," he hissed. "No right to mention the money I've been sending. You had no right to upset your mother. Then why doesn't she know?" His mouth opened, then closed. "She doesn't understand finances," he said finally. That was the first crack. I remembered every rule he had given me. Send it directly to him. Do not ask Marcus. Do not mention statements. Do not tell Mom. At the time, it sounded like crisis management. Now it sounded like instructions for hiding something. Marcus appeared at the end of the hall, phone in hand. "You should apologize," he said. "Dad has a lot on him." I turned to him. "Have you paid anything toward the house?" Marcus blinked. "That's not really my lane." "What does that mean?" "You're better with boring stuff," he said. "Bills, paperwork, whatever." I walked into the bathroom and locked the door before I said something I could not take back. My banking app loaded slowly, each second making my pulse louder. 12 transfers, $18,000, all labeled by Dad as family help. Then my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Ms. Reyes, final notice was sent today regarding the second lien. I stopped breathing. Second lien. I opened my laptop on the bathroom counter and downloaded every receipt before Dad could make another lie disappear. Marcus's birthday brunch was supposed to be Dad's reset button. By 11 the next morning, my parents' dining room had been cleaned, the red envelope was gone, and relatives were gathered around a sheet cake that said, "Congratulations, Marcus," in blue icing, even though no one could explain what we were congratulating him for. Aunt Rosa hugged him and said, "Your father says big things are coming." Marcus grinned. "You know me, always building." I stood near the kitchen doorway with printed bank transfers folded inside my purse. I had planned to pull Mom aside quietly, show her what I had, and ask her to come with me to the bank. But Dad spotted me first. "Daniela," he said loudly, lifting his coffee mug, "try not to make today about yourself." A few cousins glanced over. Mom looked at me from beside the sink, her face still pale from the night before. Then Aunt Rosa laughed and tapped Marcus's shoulder. "This one carries the family name. Daniela, you should learn from your brother. Sons know how to protect a family." Dad raised his mug higher. "To Marcus, the reason this family still has a future." Something in me went still. I walked to the table. "Marcus," I said, "how much have you paid toward the house?" His smile twitched. "What?" "How much?" Dad slammed his mug down. "Enough. Your jealousy is pathetic." I took the folded papers from my purse and laid them beside the birthday cake. 12 transfers, I said. From my account to Dad's, $18,000, all because he told me the mortgage was in danger. The room changed. Forks stopped moving. Someone muted the TV. Mom stepped forward. "Victor, why is Daniela sending you mortgage money?" Dad's face hardened. "Because she offered. She likes feeling important." I opened my phone and played the voicemail. Dad's recorded voice filled the room. "Don't tell your mother. Just send it before the lender calls again." Aunt Rosa slowly lowered her plate. Marcus stood up. "This isn't the place." The front door opened behind us. Caleb, Marcus's old business partner, walked in carrying a gift bag. His smile vanished when he heard the word mortgage. He pulled me toward the hallway and whispered, "Please tell me your dad didn't use the house to pay Marcus's debt." I stared at him. Caleb swallowed. "Daniela, your brother's company collapsed 8 months ago." Caleb's words hit the room before I could decide what to do with them. "Collapsed," I said. He looked past me toward Marcus, then lowered his voice. 8 months ago, we couldn't refund client deposits. Your dad said he had a way to make people whole before anyone filed complaints. My stomach tightened as the dates lined up. Dad's first emergency call had come 2 weeks after Marcus's company vanished from social media. 2 weeks after Marcus moved back into the guest room. 2 weeks after Dad started saying the mortgage was behind. Across the dining room, Dad was watching us. Mom stepped closer. "What deposits?" Caleb froze. "Mrs. Reyes, I thought you knew." Dad crossed the room fast. "That's enough." "No," Mom said, turning on him. "I want the loan papers." "There are no papers you need to see." I pulled out my phone. "Then we'll ask the lender." Dad's voice dropped. "Daniela, hang up." I put the call on speaker. My hands shook, but I kept my thumb steady on the screen. When the mortgage representative answered, I gave my name and explained that I had made payments connected to the property. The representative confirmed the payment history, but said only borrowers could access the full loan documents. Mom stepped beside me. "I'm Alina Reyes. I'm on the original mortgage. Was there a second lien opened on my home?" There was typing on the other end, then silence. "Yes, ma'am," the representative said carefully. "A consent form is listed under your name." Mom's face went blank. "I never signed a consent form." Dad moved toward the phone. I stepped back. Marcus blurted. "Dad said it was temporary." Everyone turned to him. Mom's voice came out almost too quiet to hear. "Victor, what did you do?" Before Dad could answer, my phone chimed. An email banner slid across the screen from the lender's fraud review department. Subject line, "Second Lien documentation attached." I tapped the email before Dad could reach me. The attachment opened slowly, line by line, like the truth was dragging itself into the room. Mom stood beside me, one hand pressed to her mouth. Marcus was frozen near the hallway. Dad kept saying, "Don't read that here," but no one moved to help him. The document showed a second mortgage taken against my parents' house 9 months earlier. The amount made Aunt Rosa gasp. Then came the purpose notes: debt consolidation, business settlement, client reimbursement. I looked at Marcus. He dropped his eyes. Mom took the phone from my hand and scrolled until she found the signature page. Her name was printed beneath a signature that leaned too hard to the right, with letters she never shaped that way. She whispered, "That is not my signature." Dad's face had gone gray. "You forged Mom's consent?" I asked. He pointed at Marcus, then at me, as if blame was something he could throw around the room until someone caught it. "I did what I had to do. Your brother was about to lose everything." "He already lost everything," Caleb said from the hallway. "That's why you paid people back." Marcus finally spoke. "I was going to relaunch. I just needed time." Aunt Rosa stared at him. "So Daniela was paying for your failure while we were praising you?" Nobody answered, because the answer was sitting on the table beside the birthday cake. My transfer records, Dad's voicemail, the lender's email, and a forged signature. Mom read the voicemail transcript again, her voice shaking on every word. "Don't tell your mother. Just send it before the lender calls again." Then she looked at Dad. "You made our daughter afraid we were losing the house," she said. "You made her pay for a loan I never agreed to." Dad turned on me. "You have no idea what you've done. You've ruined your brother's future." For the first time in my life, that sentence did not bend me. I picked up the papers and placed them neatly in front of him. "No," I said. "I stopped funding it." By Monday morning, Mom had called an attorney. By Tuesday, the lender's fraud department had opened a review on the second lien. Dad was removed from every household account Mom could legally separate. She began the process of protecting her share of the home and filing a formal complaint over the forged consent. Marcus's birthday post never went online. Instead, relatives started calling him with questions. The same aunt who had praised him for carrying the family name demanded to know which clients had been repaid and which debts were still hidden. Caleb gave Mom copies of the business records he had saved. Marcus stopped answering calls by the end of the week. Dad lost the one thing he had guarded most fiercely: control of the story. He could no longer call Marcus responsible while calling me selfish. He could no longer turn my silence into his safety. Every person at that brunch had seen the papers, heard the voicemail, and watched Mom realize her own name had been used without her permission. I did not get all $18,000 back. Not then. But I went to my bank, stopped every automatic transfer, printed every record, and opened a new account Dad had never touched. I told my landlord I was ready to sign the lease I had been delaying because I was always afraid the next family emergency would need my deposit. 3 months later, I ate dinner at a small second-hand table in my own apartment. The walls were bare. Half my dishes were still in boxes. The quiet felt unfamiliar, but it did not accuse me of anything. Mom came over with soup in a plastic container and roses from the garden. She stood in my doorway and said, "I should have asked questions sooner." I let her in. We ate slowly, carefully, like two people learning a new language. She did not ask me for money. She did not defend Dad. She did not mention Marcus as someone I should admire. When she left, I washed 2 bowls, locked my door, and looked around at the first home I had ever chosen without guilt. I stopped trying to measure up to Marcus the day. Everyone learned he had been standing on my shoulders.